and welcome to Today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, and we have a special episode with our Mayor Scott Galvin, as we're here to talk about some of the new updates related to state advisories that have been in place, as well as a whole bunch of general city business. So thanks for joining me as always, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
I thought I would start with a couple of easy things. So we'll ease our way into the conversation today. I think it is obvious that we will not have a tree lighting festival like we have had in years past, the day after Thanksgiving or the Saturday after Thanksgiving, I guess. But people have been asking if we're going to do any kind of lighting or ceremony or festivity of any kind. And I promised that I would ask you that question.
Well, it's a good question. So we're not, unfortunately, the festival won't be occurring, and I don't know, it's been a great tradition for a number of years since going way back. So a lot of people are disappointed. Even the organizers are really disappointed because I think they really enjoy setting up for it and scheduling it and bringing in all the vendors. So it's a disappointment to everybody. We are definitely decorating the center the way we always have. McHugh's has got us another tree for over at the pocket park between the Brickyard and Citizens Bank. So we'll be lighting that up, and we haven't decided what type of ceremony, if anything, we're going to have, but we're working on that to come up with something nice. We'll figure something out.
Well, that's lovely. It is a wonderful tradition, and like everything, we'll be back with a vengeance next year.
Absolutely.
But I think people will be glad to know that we'll still have the lights and festivities to enjoy as people come through. So that's great. A couple other things before we talk about the state guidance that's come out. There has been coverage that Leahy was going to open a drive-through COVID testing facility in Woburn. I don't know if that's happened or in process or isn't going to happen. Do you know anything about that? That
is in front of the city council Tuesday night.
Okay.
And just to clear up any misconceptions about what it is, it's not a stop the spread site. It's not sponsored by the state. It's specifically for the clients or the patients from the Leahy group, which includes Winchester Hospital. So it's another way for them in the doctors related to that network to get tests done in a quick way. So it's for the patients that belong to that hospital.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I think most of us did not know that or understand that. So that's helpful. Given that we have been in a red status for some time, is there any discussion, or I don't know how state stop the spread sites are determined where they go, but is there any discussion about bringing one closer?
There has been discussion, and I spoke to Mass DPH. We had a phone conference last Monday, and they discussed with us what the criteria to qualify for one of those sites. And they have 18 across the state. So the state's really vested in them, but at this time we don't meet the criteria to establish a site here. One of the things that we did do, which doesn't work for the entire city, but we have set up a testing for our teachers. I think you might be aware of that, which I think is a really good thing for the schools, and to continue our close monitoring in the schools, which is coupled with the PPE that's been put in place, the mitigation measures. So now we're working with Armstrong Ambulance, using some of our CARES funds to set up free testing for teachers, which has been very well received. First testing begins tomorrow, Friday, at the high school. So I think it's a good partnership. We've worked well between Matt and I and Ellen Crowley, and also the teachers union. So we're pleased to offer that to the teachers.
I'm really glad that I think people will appreciate that. I'm sure the teachers appreciate that. That's great. I think we did have to go all remote for a third grade, I think at the Wyman School, if I have that correct, recently.
That's right, Harold Wyman. One of the teachers' family members had contracted COVID, and that teacher then also tested positive, and they were considered to be close. She was considered to be a close contact with the other teachers. So the easiest thing to do was at that point, was to shut down the entire third grade, because it was difficult to get more teachers to cover the 3 classes.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes sense. And thank you for clarifying the situation. I think there was a lot of people who were concerned that it was a big spike in students, but in fact, it wasn't that scenario. It was just the staff who interacts with a lot of students. And so
Yes.
to make sure that we're protecting everyone, that it didn't actually signal a spread in the school. It just was the scenario of who had been in close
Right.
contact.
And those
Correct?
3 teachers are teaching remotely, which is
Okay.
good. So,
Good.
and only one of the teachers was positive, and,
Okay.
and she's doing well from what we understand.
Great. That's really, that's very helpful. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that that our governor put out. So Governor Baker put out an advisory, and one of the parts of that advisory is a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. Curfew might be too strong a word for what it actually is.
It's an advisory, right?
Right. So it's a request to stay home, but there are some stronger sanctions for businesses, correct, in terms of operating during that time?
Yes. There was a list of 20 different businesses that we have, and I think you probably have access to. There's a list of 20 businesses that have to close at 9:30. The restaurants, again, are being closed down at 9:30, which is really difficult for them. And kind of unfortunate, but I think the governor's taking some actions that he feels are important for the state to slow the spread down, and he's got some smart people advising him on these issues. So,
and please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is they can still do takeout, but you can't do in-store dining or pickup. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right.
Okay. All right. So we can, but they're trying to limit the spread. Okay, great. That's really helpful. Also, if I remember correctly, indoor gatherings were reduced to 10 non-household members, right? Is that correct? 10 people total, I suppose. I mean, there might be some families who have 10 living, more than 10 living together, but most of us don't. And outdoor gatherings to 25, correct?
Outdoor gatherings are, I'm going to have to double check on that. I thought the outdoor gatherings were still at 50.
Okay. I had seen at one point it had been reduced, but there might have been more clarity since Monday, because I know that there was some additional advisories that I haven't seen. So people will confirm that, but the indoor gatherings is definitely at 10.
Yes.
Okay. Did any of the advisory affect the capacity of the particular restaurants or other public spaces, or they can still stay at capacity as long as the
same capacity? It was just in our situation. Remember that we have the red status for 3 consecutive weeks, so we are not able to go to step 2 of phase 3, and that's the one that reduced the capacity for different some of the different businesses like gyms and different theaters and whatnot, and the library was another one as well.
Okay, good. Anything else on the governor's advisory? That there were some fines built into it, if I remember correctly.
The civil fine for $500 for violation has been constant. The one that I thought was a little bit controversial was the mask requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a harder time with the requirement that that they have to wear masks if they're out exercising, if they're out walking, and the way that the order reads is you have to have a mask on at all times, and it makes it a little bit difficult when if you're out, for instance, if I left the office and I'm walking downtown and there's nobody out there and I still have to wear a mask, or if I'm going for a run and nobody's around, I'm technically supposed to, under the order, I'm supposed to have a mask. And I think that's a little bit difficult, and that's one of the things, like I said, I think Governor Baker's done a tremendous job with handling the pandemic since it started. And this is one of the times that I slightly disagree with him. I think that masks are extremely important, particularly when you can't be socially distant, when you're inside closed areas, supermarkets, banks, anywhere you go that you go inside. I think it's very important. But I don't think there's a need to require people who are outside when they're exercising, getting fresh air, when they're more than 6 feet away from people. I don't agree with that. And I think it's going to cause some problems for us where people are calling us constantly, Samantha, if they see somebody without a mask. And it because, for the most part, like I said in the past, I've seen 90% of the people who are walking around the pond have a mask either on or on their hand or around their neck, ready to put it on.
Okay.
So I'm not really quite sure on that, other than I know we have to enforce it, and it's going to be problematic.
Well, I think it's a good reminder to all of us, if you're in your yard, you do not need, and there's nobody else around and you're by, with your immediate family, that's fine. I know I've seen some chatter and confusion about that. But if you are in a public space, that has, we certainly, that's the order right now, is you're supposed to wear a mask.
That's right.
Correct. Okay. So thank you for clarifying that. I think it's important for all of us to do as much as we can to honor that and to help our law enforcement and team not get distracted by non-dangerous situations. What I think I hear you saying is let's enforce situations that are a challenge for us and we know are high risk. If you see somebody walking alone and they're, a half a mile away, we don't necessarily need to call the police on it, right?
Don't make that your mission to shame them or, yell at them. But again, it is part of the order. And I think it's going to be, one of the more difficult things to enforce, because everybody, for the most part, like we know, they're doing their part. They're being responsible and just keep it up. That's all. But
I think from a practical standpoint, I was like looking at my own behavior and saying, what does it change for me personally? And I think what it changes for me is, for example, before I get out of my car, I'm going to put a mask on before I walk into a building. Whereas in the past, I might have gotten out of my car, walked part way to the door, put it on before I went inside if I kind of didn't see many people around me. And so I think it's some of that just simple behavior changes. To your point, most of us are wearing masks anyways. It doesn't actually change the vast majority of our behavior, but to be aware of and extra cautious and careful around others. Okay, good. Thank you for that. I'm looking through my notes. I had a couple other questions. So a couple things that are non-related to COVID. We have odds, if I get this right, odd side of the street parking ban that's supposed to start mid-November. I always think it feels like it's too early, but we actually had snow the other day, so it's probably not.
Right.
Do I have that correct?
You got it right.
Okay, great. We've had a couple of really good things. I know there was a really successful food drive. I think they raised something like $30,000 worth of food that
last week.
It was like the weekend before. Yeah, not last weekend.
Yeah, you had a guest on the show who was talking about that.
Exactly. Leandra was talking about it, and it was so great to see the community come together. A couple of other things that are coming up. So we have a recycling drive that also is a fundraiser for the Social Concern, I believe, on the 21st, if I get that right. Good. I think that covers the majority of the sort of things that I wanted to cover off on with you today. Is there anything else that's going on that you want to keep us informed about?
Yeah, three things actually. One on the city side. Last week we had the Mayor Senior Dinner, which we continue the tradition. There was a drive-through, and we had some great support from a lot of local groups helped out. City Hall employees. My assistant was great. The Senior Center was very good. DPW. We had some donations. We weren't asking for them, but we had a couple business people who stepped up, who you always do. Bill Cummings made a nice donation to the cause, and also Mark Shelzy and his wife, prominent family up in North Woburn. They made a significant donation too that helped us get the chicken pies and nice. Whatnot. So that was very nice of them. I want to give them a shout out. We gave over 550 dinners out to seniors.
Wow, that's a lot more than I would have expected. That's amazing. That's
really
great.
Good. It was a steady turnout from like 10 to 1:30. So it was a nice day. And then secondly, we're also like the schools who do the free lunch for students Monday to Friday. We're starting a program November 1st, partnering with the Senior Center to give away, and the school department in Aramark, to give away free lunches to seniors who sign up starting on Monday. It'll go from Monday to December 31st. So that's a good, I think that's a really good thing for seniors who might be hurting and need a little help with food insecurity. So we're happy about that program. Again, if anybody wants information, that's on the city's website. And lastly, on our end, we'll be setting the tax rate on November 17th. That's how we determine what tax bill is going to be. And that'll be on November 17th. So that hearing is both live, and I know it's definitely live. I don't know if they're doing it on Zoom as well.
Okay, thank you for that. You know, I have to admit complete ignorance. I know nothing about how that happens. Tell us a little bit about I assume you present a proposal or someone presents a proposal?
So, so on tax class, on setting the tax rate, we'll go down to the city council with the assessor's office, the auditor, and the financial team and myself, and it is the tax classification, which sometimes people don't totally understand. Like you said, we've already established our budget. We've established our spending plan. We are going to use some of our reserves, like we've said in the past, to soften the blow of the increase in taxes, because we've lost quite, in this case, we've lost, like I've been telling people, about 6 million in revenues that we feel are going to be one or two time instances, and then it'll bounce back. So we have built up our reserves. In this case, we're going to use about 3 million of our reserves to reduce the tax rate, which will be it's pretty significantly from where it would have gone. We'll be using our reserves, a one-time deal, which we don't do. We don't use our reserves, but in this time,
we know you've been very fiscally keeping
this,
it, but this is what it's for. So
this is what it's for, and this is, they say,
time.
the rainy day. So we're going to help both residents and businesses out and give them some tax relief this time around.
Okay. The changes in tax, will that affect both residents and businesses, or one or the other, or how are you looking at it?
It'll affect both
Okay.
businesses and residents, but we think that with what we're doing, the actual tax rate for both businesses and residents will not be as high as will be lower than it was last year.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, that is good news for people as they're working through all the things that are going on right now. Thank you so much. I also should just mention there has been, I know I think there was a blood pressure clinic today at City Hall, but there are others on the schedule as well. So for those folks who are feeling a little extra anxious these days and such. And then before we go, I would be completely remiss if we didn't give a massive shout out to all of our town clerk and volunteers who helped us with the elections and the polls and all those many, many ballots that came in and worked, I'm sure, really, really hard and a lot of extra hours. So I don't know how to thank all of them, but I certainly want to thank them for that effort.
Yeah, I'll second that. They did. Bill Campbell and his staff did a great job, and all the poll workers were fantastic. So they put in a lot of time and a lot of stress. So I'll second what you say and give them a great shout out. They did an excellent job.
Great. Well, thank you all for listening. And as always, Woburn, please continue to take care of each other.
Thanks, Samantha.